so I won't spend a lot of time introducing myself. My wife and I lost our home in the Waldo Canyon fire, and we're thankful to have hooked up with United Policyholders. We're volunteering with that organization, and it's been a very rewarding experience. And although we're sorry for the circumstance that brings us together, we're certainly glad to be able to have a little bit of experience to share with you. Tonight, hopefully you've all had a chance to grab this little agenda. And so we'll stick pretty close to that. On the back side of that are some questions that you might want to think about, and also give you a place to make some notes. As we get started, I know we've got a couple people still straggling in, but I want to pass the mic on to Commissioner Glenn and just allow him to say a couple of words.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. These workshops are critical to the recovery process, and and I just want, we've been through a tough year. We really have. I was talking to somebody, and they were asking me, how do you sum up the year? And I say, fire, floods, and recovery. And that's really where we're at. And I just really want to thank our partners here with United Policyholders and the hard work that Steve Price has been doing and his team in helping out. And we really view them as partners, trying to help out and give you critical information that you need to go through this recovery process. Because I remember at the very beginning, we wanted to make sure that we emphasize that we understand that this is a marathon and not a sprint. And I am so proud of every time I go out and I talk to people about how we've recovered in this community. We've come together as a family, and we're going through this whole process, and we want to make sure that we provide you the information that you need to assist to make sure that from a government standpoint that we're not putting things in place to make things more difficult. So that's why it's so important to attend forums like this, and we want to make sure that if you have neighbors that are out there and they're still going through this process, because again, we recognize that people are going through this process at different stages. And the closer that we get to holidays, we want to make sure that you pay close attention to your friends and neighbors and invite them over and give them a hug every once in a while. But I just want you to understand that the county, we are 100% committed to assisting you in any way we can, partnering with great people like this. And if you ever need anything, please feel free to give me a call, send me an email. If you just want to vent, I'm good at it. Trust me, my kids yell at me all the time. So I just want to make sure you understand that we're here for you. So thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to these guys.
Thank you for your time, Commissioner. We appreciate it. Let me just tell you very quickly, and many of you have been through this before, so I won't spend a lot of time on this. United Policyholders is an entity that's a nonprofit. They don't sell or endorse anything. They get all their resources from grants and from donations. And their goal, their total goal, is to provide you guys with free resources to help you get through this experience. There's also a great network of individuals and a lot of folks behind the scene that you don't see even here tonight. I'll address a few of those folks in just a bit, but it's really quite an organization, and if it's touched your heart at all, like it's touched ours. I know that many of you may wind up being in this seat. In fact, I was on my way back from an international business trip, planning to go to Moore, Oklahoma, right after that tornado, and literally the fire broke out that day. I canceled my flight. And of course, here we are. So I think it will touch your hearts. So again, you want to make sure that you log on to uphelp.org and take a look at all their resources. They've got an immense amount of experience, as you can tell from the various disasters that they've been involved in, and it includes everything that we've been through, including fires and floods and hail and all those kinds of things. So a lot of experience. I want to thank El Paso County and particularly Woodmen Chapel for their generosity and acknowledge them. Without that help, we probably couldn't do these things. I want It's been great to get to know them. Another group I'd like to thank are the staff from Woodmen Chapel. Wayne's back in the back. Wayne, stand up and say hello to us. Folks, you need to acknowledge this guy. He's been here. Wayne lost his house as well, and just finished cutting down, 1,000 trees or something. So, thank you for everything that you do. I want to thank all the folks from United Policyholders in San Francisco. I want to thank Carrie, Olivier, to my left, my wife Carla's back with Commissioner Glenn. There's Don Meany. Is Don here yet? Many of you have seen Don. He's coming tonight. And Masami Wa, who actually was my next door neighbor. And Masami, their house was standing, but I can tell you right now, their house is getting completely restuccoed with all new windows, new doors, all those things. So they're like Carrie. They've experienced that partial loss. Which brings me to a question: how many people here today are experienced just a partial loss? Okay, a few of you. All right. Well, again, we're sorry for the circumstances that bring us together, but what makes us, if it doesn't make us bitter, it makes us better. So, as I've said from first, I think this is an opportunity to demonstrate your character, and the people around you are watching. So, thank you for all your efforts. Some of the fine print for United Policyholders, they make me do this. They want me to tell you that the information is intended for general education and is not to be construed as legal advice. Our speakers today are volunteering their time as educators, and neither United Policyholders or El Paso County endorses or warrants the quality or the services of our volunteer speakers. Behind me is a little screen capture that shows the UP Help website. How many people have been on that website? Most of you. Fantastic. It's amazing the layers of information that are there, including the Claim Help Library, the videos, etc. I'm going to show you a couple of those as we move on. As many of you may know, and some of you may have had the chance to check out, there's a Ask an Expert forum there. It's free. You can ask your questions in total anonymity. They don't see who you are, but when they respond, you'll see who they are. So if you want to carry on that dialogue or get more involved with those folks, you can certainly do that. And those experts are truly experts. Many of them are in the legal field. They're public adjusters. They're folks that have come from the insurance industry, many times working for the companies, and they just want to do something that gives back. So again, your information stays totally private. Here's some of the useful tools. Hopefully you've received these. Does anybody here need a yellow book? I'm just curious. Anybody? All right, good. I'm glad to see you've got that. There is one? Okay. All right. There is a yellow book out of the table. You have one with you? I think I have. Oh, you have one? Okay. And again, there's a little USB drive that we've been giving out. Those are also, all of those documents are available on the web. There's also a Disaster Survivor Support Network they call DSSN. There are literally almost a couple hundred people now around the country. Folks like, Carrie, myself, Carla, folks like us who have been through this, and we're here to help. We register, we go online, and periodically we'll get some folks, hey, I just need some support. Can you tell me, hey, what to expect, etc. So you can request all that info. And the staff at UP knows exactly how to direct that. I wanted to give you a little bit of information on what we've already covered. So initially we did an orientation when we looked at the basics of every insurance policy, maintaining a diary. We looked at the roadmap to recovery organizers and a lot of the sample documents. The next workshop was on communicating with your insurer. We had a Denver attorney come in, Tom Henderson, spoke about the Colorado Fair Claims Practices Act. We talked about estimating and documenting your losses. We followed that up with tips for settling your dwelling portion of your claim. We looked at an insurance expert who's very familiar with Xactimate. We talked about scope of loss, the process of lowballing, how to counter those issues, and a lot of partial loss considerations. We also looked in the next session, we looked at tips for settling the contents portion of your loss and documenting those contents and using Excel or some of the other technology tools at your fingertips. Here's a quick little screen capture on the UP Help website. You can see in the red box in the lower right-hand quadrant, that's where you would click to find the help for the Black Forest fire. The Here's a screen capture with the UP Help site. This actually is the link that goes into the Black Forest Fire help area. And there's a lot of information as you scroll way past here. Things like post-evacuation checklists, repair and rebuilding your home information, tips on contents and personal property, resolving problems, support resources, recovery tools, and there's a link to all the PowerPoint presentations or the videos that were done for all of the prior workshops. So those are great and very useful tools. Sometimes it's hard to grasp everything going on in those videos, and I've looked at many of them. That's how I got introduced to UP. Right after the fire in Fort Collins, I saw Karen Remus do a video. That's what fired me up, led me to believe I can do this. And I can tell you, hey, 17 months later, we're in our home, and thankfully, with UP's help and a lot of other good folks, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So tonight, oops, what do we have a problem here? Let me see, maybe it's me. It's probably me. Don't touch that part of the button. All right, there you go. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about construction. And we're going to talk about rebuilding, building, repairs, those kinds of things. And so I want to take just a second and introduce the folks who are going to be doing some presentation for us today. On my left is Carrie Olivier. I'm sure many of you know her. I don't need to introduce Carrie. She can fend for herself, as many of you know. Carrie's also, as I mentioned, a Waldo Canyon survivor and a partial loss, and very successful working with her insurance company. On my right is Phil Getzman. He's the owner of Getzman Homes here in Colorado Springs, and I'll save an introduction of Phil a little bit later. So for now, what I want to do is I want to turn this over to Carrie and let her tell you a little bit about when and how to use experts and using restoration contractors.
Hi and welcome everyone again to the club. I like to say nobody really wanted to be a member of, but we all are. And I first of all want to thank also and make you aware of some other wonderful helping people that are here tonight. Care and Share in the parking lot. If you haven't already gone through, they're there with the donations that the community has supplied for Black Forest. So I hope you'll make sure you go by and let Kate give you a hug, because that's always a good thing too. And then we have a couple of folks from Aspen Point here tonight again as well. And if you guys want to stand up and so people can see who you are, this is a program that is funded in part by FEMA. And I just want to say that they've helped many people in our community in ways we never expected we would need help with. And I hope you'll use those services, especially as the holidays come. And there's some additional challenges. So to get going on my presentation, I am going, let's see which one's to the right. Okay. Tonight, I'm going to address things that will cover partial loss and then trickle into total also. And first of all, when do you need expert help? You know your home has been damaged, or you suspect it has, and when you get back in, you're sure it has. But sometimes it's not easy to identify the damage, and we covered that in a previous session as well. An expert can be a contractor, a restoration contractor specialist, or an engineer. There are, all varieties of what we're calling experts here, or who call themselves experts. But often, aside from the adjuster that the insurance company sends out, you're going to likely need some help to document your loss and to get it moving. So the calling on an expert is a great idea when the insurer may be slow to respond because of demand. There's so much going on, even in Colorado right now with the flooding. It may be hard for that adjuster to get back to your house quickly, and you need to get your claim moving. You may feel that the adjuster's estimate is incomplete, or you just don't feel comfortable with what you've been presented or been told. It just doesn't sit well. There could be hidden or latent damage that you can't identify and you don't feel the insurer has identified. as I said, or you may have identified damage and feel that the amount that the insurer has given you on your scope of loss, it just isn't going to cut it in terms of getting the job done. Maybe you've had a couple of quotes and it just doesn't seem like it's in the same world. The adjuster may have denied coverage or said no for window damage or roof damage, or perhaps only wanted to do cleaning when you felt something more was going to be needed. So really, it's like getting a second opinion from a medical provider. You want to make sure that the expert you're getting the opinion from really is an expert. They're qualified to help you and to give you an unbiased opinion that you can then use to document your claim and move it forward to get your home restored. So how can they help? Getting things moving along. It's your house after all, so really it's best to work on your timeline within the insurer's timeline. If you just wait for the insurer to respond, that may not happen quickly enough for you to meet all of your deadlines. And again, credible documentation is super important, and detailed documentation, because people like to say the devil's in the details. I like to say the dollars are in the details. I mean, if you do not have all of the costs in your estimate that you need to do the restoration, the money's going to have to come from somewhere, and you will end up being back starting over again. I learned that the hard way. I mean, I think I ended up with 4 checks before I had my deck really covered. And it just required getting good documentation and getting it to the insurer. And then they were able to get it approved for me. You know, a lot of it seems to be a battle, for sure, sometimes with the insurance company. But the other saying I like is don't get mad, get even, and get even by getting your restoration done, getting your work done. Work with your insurer as much as possible and make it easy for them to say yes. Give them the information that they need. And sometimes that means bringing in an expert and so that you can meet your responsibilities under the policy and make sure you're doing everything you need to do as well. And then I think this is really important. I know it is for me. You know, I suspected that my windows were not right soon after the fire. I had vinyl windows, but they looked okay. They were only 4 years old at the time. I had just replaced them a few years before. But they looked okay. They weren't melted. They didn't look warped. But I kept getting, you know, debris, ash, dirt, and they didn't seem to be holding the cold or the hot in the house. But I couldn't really, I called the window company, I looked online, I had a really hard time finding documentation about vinyl windows. And ultimately I just kept pressing, and there were individuals from United Policyholders and other disasters, previous disasters and fires in the state, who helped me find the information I needed to know, and I was able to document and demonstrate to the insurer and get those windows covered. And right after they finally approved that on one elevation of my home, but you know, my adjuster was like, I still don't know about this, you know, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt here. We had our first major rainstorm that came from the south, and water poured into my house in every one of those windows that was exposed, because turns out vinyl is much more susceptible to heat and can be changed and without obvious visible damage. Usually insurers want to see direct physical damage that you can take a picture of. It's kind of like an x-ray of a broken bone. Well, you can't x-ray everything that's wrong with a human, and you can't visually see necessarily everything that's wrong with a heat or smoke damaged home. When you're looking at hiring someone or bringing someone in to act as an expert to document your loss or to document the cost of replacing something, it is really important to get someone who's credible and who follows the procedures that may be set up by whatever guidelines they would be certified under or operate under. And this picture is a picture of some certified industrial hygiene testing that was done in a smoke damaged home in Waldo Canyon by a company that the homeowner brought in from Texas that I think I mentioned before. We've been looking beyond Colorado for people who have more experience in this and smoke damage. So this is an example of swabs and containers from air testing, and there's a whole chain of custody that goes on kind of like a forensic pathologist would do in a crime scene, so that you can be sure that it's documented where these samples were taken, when they were taken, how they were taken, who took them, where they went for analysis, and is it a certified lab. Or you could end up spending a lot of money not getting reimbursed for that and not having anything of value to show. So it's super important not just to take people's word that they're an expert, but to do the homework and make sure that they are certified. And UP has a link about hiring experts and professionals that can help you know who to go to check someone out and see if they are in fact certified. What kind of expert might you need? Well, there's some really areas that are really difficult, like electronics, appliances, mechanical systems. Your HVAC system can be affected by smoke, by heat, by ash, particulate matter. Hire or look to someone who is a specialist in that area. Or you can look for an engineer, an electrical mechanical engineer, or a really good specialty contractor who has a good reputation and who you trust. For soft goods like carpet, painted surfaces in your home, furnishings, clothing, a certified industrial hygienist or restoration contractor who has done this type of work before can help you document your loss and have a remediation plan that makes sense. If it's a structural issue like your roof, windows, siding, stucco, gutters, foundation, insulation, structural engineer or specialty contractor in that area can help you. Some of the window people in town have become experts on partial losses and windows because of just what I experienced, and now there are many people who have experienced similar things. Who pays for the expert? Who pays for the contractor's fees? There aren't really exact answers to this, but we can share what we do know is industry standard. If you get a local, reputable specialty contractor like a window installer company, maybe Anderson or Pella or Marvin or somebody like that who's been doing it for a long, long time, they can come in and look at your windows and tell you what they think based on their experience, and you can have them document that, and they can provide you with a detailed estimate as well. And that's great because they want your business. They may do that without a charge, and hopefully you will honor their time because a worker's worth his wages, and a lot of these people are given lots of estimates and not getting paid, and it's rough on them too. But the one potential downside with this is that they may have limited knowledge about fire and smoke claims of this nature. So you may need to go to get that information, but then go a step up from that and hire a structural engineer or a window specialist to help you with that. So, if you do have to hire a professional engineer or certified industrial hygienist, those fees may or may not be reimbursed by your insurance company. If you tell your insurance company, I think my windows are bad, I want engineer to come out and look at them, then your insurance company is going to hire someone that works for them and has in the past to come out and look at that. And they may or may not be able to give you an objective opinion, because after all, they work for, routinely, the insurance company. If you have someone who wants your business, they may or may not be able to give you an objective opinion. But if you hire a local professional engineer or someone who doesn't earn most of their living from the insurance company or by selling you a product, then you have another level of sort of assurance that it's going to be a little more objective. So if you do hire an engineer, there's going to be a fee, and you may or may not be able to recover that from the insurance company. If they find evidence that actually furthers your claim, then there is a good chance that you will be able to get that fee paid by your insurer. It just depends. Then there are restoration contractors, or general contractors sometimes act as restoration contractors. Most insurance companies, if you have enough going on that needs to be coordinated in your partial loss, which many of you know can be a dozen things at once, the insurance company will include 10% profit, 10% overhead for all of that structural work that needs to be coordinated. So let's say you have $1,000 worth of windows, then there would be $100 of profit and $100 of overhead added on to your estimate for the contractor. Some contractors may add markups on those windows that they sell you and other things like that. But so you still want to stay in control of your claim. You may act as your own contractor and trade your time for that 10 and 10 if you reach that agreement with your insurance company. But regardless, we really recommend that you stay in control of your claim and don't just turn it over to someone, but work with them. Public adjusters and attorneys may work on a fee basis or on a contingency basis. So watch with that for extra costs and expenses that may be added on to that would come directly out of your pocket. Preferred contractors. Some insurance companies have them and some don't. Many insurance companies do not warrant the work of their preferred contractors. Some do. There are a couple of insurance companies who actually will warrant the work of the preferred contractor, but please remember again, preferred by whom? You need an advocate for you if you are working a complex, major, catastrophic claim. So ask your contractor or your expert or whoever you're working with if they share your goals, if they understand what your concerns are. Advocate or double agent. That's the best way I can really state that. And there's no legal relationship really generally between the insurer and the contractor. So it's between you and your contractor and you and your insurance company. I'm going to let Phil cover, I'm sure, things like contractor liability insurance, workers' comp, and lien waivers, things like that. You do want to get all of your warranties in writing and make sure that you read your contracts before you sign them and that you're happy with them. Get it in writing. Accountability is the key to a good outcome. From credentials to weekly updates to completing your project, you want to stay involved and keep people accountable. The one that writes the check has the say. So stay in charge, and again, be careful. I'm going to flip right through this because Phil's going to cover this too. Be careful not to give final payment until you are comfortable that you have reached the best outcome you can under your contract. Holding back that third or that final payment may be the best leverage you have. And everybody's busy right now, so you want to be their priority until they're done with your job. I just wanted to show you some examples. How not to prep a job site. This is a friend of mine They have a big, beautiful home that was surrounded by burn downs all around and was heavily smoke damaged. And it took a long time to sort of get the insurance company and the homeowner on the same page and moving forward. And they actually did that through a preferred contractor, general contractor, restoration contractor. But then the other fire happened and the flood happened, and all of a sudden there were lots of workers in the house and no supervisors in the house. And so this wooden floor had just been refinished. It didn't have the final coat on it yet, and they were dragging rolls of carpeting from the back end through the just finished wooden floor. And you can see all of there's supplies and paints, furniture there that's uncovered while work is being done. My point in showing you this is, I don't think anybody wants to do this to your things, but life happens, and if you keep your eyes on your prize of restoration, then, feel empowered to take charge and make sure that you get the outcome that you believe you should have. These are good dollars that have been collected through the insurance company process for your claim. And they're getting paid, and you should have a good outcome, just like if it wasn't an insurance claim. This is, what was supposed to be a safe pack-out of furniture. It was put in the garage, stacked all wacko on top of each other with a bunch of junk, with a tar path thrown over next to the trash can and a paint bucket. This isn't how you want your things treated if you still have things, if the home is smoke damaged. Using new appliances as a step ladder. I mean, you have to just keep an eye on things. And I want to encourage you, because just like Steve and Carla are just now celebrating moving into their home that they rebuilt that took so much work, many of us that had partial losses that were very complicated, it took a long time to get the insurance company engaged to really address those. We're having success and we're getting back in our homes and we are feeling like life is good and it's going to be okay. Our neighborhood is coming back. We're seeing the light of day, and the insurance company is the #1 vehicle to get you there financially. So be strong, demand what you want, but do your best to work with them to get there. How am I doing on time? Okay, good. I'll slow down and take a breath then. The next piece that I want to talk about is how the dollars flow, because a lot of us have been taken off guard, and I'm sure you have too, that, the insurance check comes with maybe a bunch of other names on it, right? And so it all starts with the scope of loss. Someone just told me coming in that they finally reached their face value max on their dwelling for their house and are excited and are going to get a check and can start moving forward. That's the first major piece, is getting that scope of loss to reflect the actual loss, so you have enough money to move ahead. Then the insurance company will cut a check from that scope. No money will come to you at the end of the day unless it is somewhere on that scope of loss that the insurance company puts together. But you can help them with that by providing them with detailed estimates from reliable places and making sure that all the dollars are there that you need to get the approved work done. Not just the issue of, are my windows damaged, but how much is it going to cost to replace the damage to my windows? Because after all, to replace my windows, they're going to have to tear out some stucco or siding on the outside. They're going to have to do some repainting on the inside. There are all of these costs associated, and some of them trickle down. So the scope is a moving target. You'll be back and forth, coming back for more that you need to get the work done. So be patient. Build your claim on a solid foundation. Be honest. get good support from other people to do that. And then when you get that check from the insurance company, it's going to have all the lien holders on it. So if you have another bank that has a line of equity open for you on your home, they're going to be on the check, if it's a structure check. If you have a separated spouse that's still on your mortgage, and they're going to be there. You may have a public adjuster, an attorney, a contractor who has a lien on your property. They may be on your check as well. If at all possible, it's recommended that you have everyone else sign the check first so that you maintain control of the money. You may not be able to do that with your mortgage company because they may want to hold your check in escrow, and I'm sure those of you who are rebuilding are already very familiar with that unfortunate reality. But don't consider it totally unfortunate because they can actually help you with accountability with your contractors. And I encourage you to work with your bank or mortgage company to do that, to make sure that they're meeting your needs and understanding your challenges, and you're using what they have put in place to protect themselves and you to your best advantage. I have gotten it down to a perfect science with my mortgage company, who doesn't have a branch in Colorado, so I have to send it off. It's one of the big mortgage companies that my mortgage got sold to by a local bank. And I just kept working at it till I found out what language worked. Now I have a form letter in my computer, and when I get a check from my insurance company, I just change the check number, I tell them what it's for, I copy what I need, and send it off, and about 6 weeks later it comes back. But I do get it back, and I am able to move ahead with my restoration. Again, I think the standard that is reasonable to go by when you're paying someone, let's say you're ordering those windows, you're going to get some deck work done or cleaning, is a third down, a third somewhere when you're really making progress in whatever the job is, and then holding on to a third of those fees until you're satisfied with the work or you've reached an agreement. Obviously, ultimately, you must reach an agreement. You can't just, hold on to that thing and never reach an agreement, or you will end up with some difficulties you don't need. And there are many resources if you get to a place where you can't reach an agreement, and many of you already have, because I've had the phone calls about it with some of the cleaning companies and restoration companies. There are places you can go to help you do some mediation or to get some action, and those are on the website as well. The Better Business Bureau is one. I've had limited success with them. Call Daryl like he offered. He knows people, and the county may be able to help, especially if there's a pattern of behavior that's egregious. Your insurer may be able to help if it's a preferred provider. They may be able to apply some pressure even if they can't actually warrant the work. And then the Attorney General's office has a Consumer Protection Act, and that's somewhere else you can go. I'm just going to summarize. I mean, it's so easy to forget the routine due diligence when you're just fighting to get somebody to come give you a quote because everybody's so busy. And you just want to get the work moving ahead, and you finally find somebody and they seem nice and they're talking the talk, and just let that little reminder come in to still clearly get everything in writing. State your expectations clearly. If your expectation is that you believe that carpet should be replaced and that cleaning isn't going to do it, make sure your adjuster knows it, make sure your cleaning contractor knows it, make sure your team understands what you believe is a valid remediation for your home. And then, you know, with most contractors, you do not have to sign a standard form contract. If you don't like some of the language in the contract, because after all they wrote it, you can negotiate with them to change that. You can change the wording. I have learned how to use a PDF overwrite on my computer. So I have negotiated changes in the terms of contracts many times because I just believe there are certain things that should be there to protect me that are not there. And in every single case, the contractors say, sure, I don't have a problem with that. If they have a problem with it, they're not the right contractor for you. And then, you know, as they are so busy and are on to the next disaster, make sure you still require the follow-ups, especially if you're doing law restoration process, so that you can get your, you know, concerns addressed as you go before it's too late. I had one friend who, the contractor forgot to put primer on the wall before they painted it. Well, the whole point of painting the walls was to prime and encapsulate the smoke damage. So now it's sort of too late to have a quick and easy fix. And this is why I encourage you to stay in touch and to keep your eye on your home. Again, you're the boss. If you're not happy, remember, you're the boss. You can ask and advocate for yourself to get the outcome that you desire. And I'm looking in this room. I've spoken to most of you that have partial losses here, and I have seen, you know, this happen so much and have learned so much. If we can take what we all collectively learn and share it through UP or through mentoring or through other resources like this, then it just will make it easier for those that have to deal with this next. And I just believe in that karma. And so I appreciate the efforts you guys are doing to share the information with us as well, because that takes energy and you may not have a lot of that right now. Finally, the last words that I'll leave you with on this are close to the first, and that is document, document, document. If it isn't said, if it's said but it isn't written, it may not mean anything. Whether it's your insurance adjuster telling you no to something for the 4th time, or it's a contractor telling you yes to something. If it's not in writing, it's going to be very difficult for you to depend on it. So do your best to document it yourself if you don't get documentation from whoever it is you're dealing with. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Gary. Great job. Guys, if you have some questions, write them down. I know I thought of a few. We're going to do Q&A after Phil's had a chance to do his piece. So hang on to that. I know I've got a couple questions as well. To my right, I want to introduce Phil Getzman. Phil is the owner of Getzman Custom Homes. Full disclosure, Phil built our house. I don't work for Getzman Custom Homes, but I'm sure with as much time as I was on the job site, he was afraid I was going to ask for a W-2. You know, probably wanted a business card or something. Anyway, I brought Phil up because I've gotten to know this guy over, oh gosh, I guess we started about a year ago, really, almost a year ago. And Phil was a recommendation from our architect and a designer, and we had interviewed many other builders. I didn't know Phil. We actually had walked through his homes, and he's got a couple of models that you can talk about later if we have time. And we were impressed. And so when somebody said, you got to talk to this guy, we had an immediate connection. And I'm happy to say, not only did we come out with an amazing, beautiful home, but we've got a great friendship. And I would hope that all of you are lucky enough to find that kind of experience. Phil is one of these soft-spoken guys. He doesn't talk much about himself, but I can tell you that He's been in the home building business for 34 years here in Colorado Springs, a native of Colorado Springs. He started off at 15 in the construction business, and I'm sure they didn't make him a superintendent right away. So I'm sure he did his share of carrying the heavy stuff and nailing nails and mixing concrete and doing all that. He's been very quietly active in the building industry for a long time. His homes have won many awards over the years, including many awards through the Parade of Homes. In 2010, they won a number of awards, and in 2011 actually won nine awards, including the People's Choice Award. So he's a super guy and has a fantastic heart. He's the kind of person that you need to have kind of on your team. And I couldn't say enough great things about Phil and his family, and I'm happy that he's here tonight and took time out of his day. What Phil and I talked might be easiest for us is kind of maybe almost like a little interview, is ask a few questions and give Phil a chance to respond to them. So Phil, with that, I'll put your high school picture up here. He says he's been in the business for 34 years. When did he start when he was 4? I don't get it. But anyway, we put together, I think, a great program for you. And the intention is to give you the basics. And we're going to start with the idea of selecting a contractor. So first question I have, Phil, is how do you identify the right contractor?
Well, for the record, Steve took that picture at 7 a.m. It's where was it?
Village.
Village. Before he bought me a cup of coffee. So to identify the right contractor, I think first and foremost you have to connect with your contractor. The communication is paramount in the process, and you need to understand that he has the same goal that you do, and make sure that he can bring value to your project. Value can be a lot of things. Some people define value as the largest home for the least amount of money. Other people define value as the finest fit and finish that anybody can offer. So you make sure that he can bring value to your project.
Again, just to help give you some thoughts, you want to ask friends, ask neighbors, ask people in the community, hook up with somebody that has a great reputation, check them out, check out their references, take a look at what they've built. We did that. We looked at a number of different projects and interviewed several builders before Phil and I met. And again, I think there was a real immediate connection. And I'll say this: we interviewed some great other home builders. One of them asked me the right question. He says, "What do you want in a builder?" And I said, "Absolute trust." What I figured out is that a contractor could staple a $1,000 bill on the inside of your wall and then drywall over it. You'd never know it. You got to have somebody you trust. So that's just something I think you're going to feel from the heart. Get those, look up their references. Figure out, hey, are they involved in their community and HBA and those kinds of things, and then check them out. What about licensing requirements, Phil?
Every home builder in El Paso County has to have a certificate of workman's compensation and liability insurance on file at the building department in order to have an active license.
So how else would somebody go about identifying somebody's experience or their reputation, finding their references?
Well, most of the large and medium home builders in Colorado Springs have model homes. You can look at those model homes. You can see the fit and finish in those model homes. Most of the builders have websites. You can read testimonials on the websites. Ask your builder for references. When people ask us for references, we give them a list of people that we've built homes for in the last 5 years. It's a lengthy list, but it absolutely shows good faith.
Great. It's so important to recognize that you have to create a team. We in hindsight probably went backwards. If I were to do it again, I'd hope that I'd find somebody like Phil to help steer me then to a team that he's worked with for a long, long time. We got to an architect, thankfully, a very, very good one. We hooked up with a commercial or a very good quality residential decorator, and they both recommended Phil as one of the kind of shortlist folks that we should talk to. But from your perspective, how do you create a team in terms of looking for not just the general contractor, but for an architect or engineers, the surveyors, the planner, all those kinds of folks. And you might talk a little bit about the relationships that you have with your subs.
When people come to us and want to, let me back up a little bit. We're a semi-custom and a custom home builder. We have people that come to us that we have models that we build repetitively. So we have those plans. We also have people that come to us that want to build a custom home. We have 2 architects that we use, and I encourage our customers to interview both architects to, just to make sure that your style fits their style. Everybody, it's fascinating. Like a landscaper will come to me and he'll say, well, what do you want? And I tell him, I want what you do best. You hire the best and let them run with it. And that's everything from the architect. And in certain situations, there's difficult lots that require a surveyor to be involved, require certain landscaping requirements. In Waldo, you have the hillside overlay zone to deal with. In Black Forest, you don't. All these things, it's a complex process, but your builder can absolutely help you through every step of the way. It's, our goal is to make the process as simple as possible for our customers. It's a stressful process for everybody, and it's even more exacerbated because of what you all have been through.
You bring up a good point, and that is you might have a set of plans where they're already drawn up. And so it's not necessary that everybody would necessarily get an architect.
Right.
Yeah, how does that work if somebody sees a plan and they say, well, that's great, but I want this?
Well, we can modify our plans, and as most builders can. There's costs associated with architects, and we have customers that like to take some of our plans and modify them because we can do that at a reasonable cost. To do a full-blown custom home can be tens of thousands of dollars. It depends on the scale of the project.
Okay. All right, next we wanted to talk a little bit about plans and specs, and I'll just kind of open these up and work my way through them. So, obviously it's going to depend on things like site characteristics. You talked about things like the hillside overlay in Waldo. You've got issues of drainage and erosion control, et cetera, even in the Black Forest. And so, out of this little list of things, maybe you could kind of touch on each of these or some of them, and then talk about also, hey, who owns the plans and those kinds of things.
Right. We, when you do a custom home, so in other words, you go to an architect, draw a set of plans, we ask that you contract directly with that architect, and there's copyright infringements, but did you own your set of plans?
We own our plans.
Yeah. So Steve owned his plans, but the architect has the copyright on those plans. As far as zoning and covenants, to get a building permit on a house, everything has to be submitted to all the governmental entities. They're long and lengthy. But with that said, all the governmental entities are jumping through hoops for you guys. I'm in the habit of taking our customers to the governmental entities because something that takes me 2 weeks to get through the process, if I take a customer with me, it's done in 2 minutes. True story. The county is jumping through hoops for you guys to expedite the process. They want the process to start quickly, get you back in a home.
There may be some folks who disagree, but that's why Daryl's here.
Go Daryl. there's covenants involved. We have to submit, if you have an HOA in your neighborhood, we have to submit to them. We ask for your help in that. The hillside overlay is something that's pretty exclusive to the west side of the interstate, although there's a few places on the east side of the interstate that fall into that. Stream sides are important, just from a permitting process. For septics in Black Forest, we have to stay away from stream sites. We have to stay away from property lines. All those things, your builder can identify that and get those items permitted. The building codes have changed radically since the fires. The fire departments are involved in that. The fire departments in Black Forest seem to be working really well with customers based on what we've experienced. There are costs for those upgrades. Certain areas, like Waldo, we have to abide by different rules within the fire department than we would, say, in Wolf Ranch or Flying Horse.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about construction timing. By the way, guys, if we haven't touched on something that you want to hear more about, just bring us back to it during the Q&A, and we're happy to touch on it. So in the construction timing, tell us a little bit about the difference, say, between the timing of a partial loss versus a complete loss.
Well, Steve, we haven't been involved in partial loss. It's not what we do well. Our home building experience is from scratch. The complete loss, we've been handling that. We'll do the demolition. We'll permit all that.
If you were in a situation with a partial loss, how might they find somebody who was qualified along the lines of the things we've already talked about?
Well, I think Friends, Better Business Bureau is a good place to look. Websites, anybody that owns a business has a website anymore, and you can find out information from their websites if it's a good website.
What about the issue of dealing with the insurance company and how that affects your construction timing?
Well, the insurance companies we found to be remarkably good in progress payments, for instance. Everybody that we've rebuilt for has had good experiences with their insurance companies. Not sure that's the case every time.
I'm speechless.
Okay, so we built one house and she worked for the insurance company.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit. We're going to talk more in the next couple of workshops about construction, financing, and timing. And Carrie touched on how the money flows. But how does that construction financing impact the timing of construction?
Well, in terms of there's lots of different ways to structure a contract. Most of what we've been doing in the complete loss end of this has been progress payments. So the way that works is it's typical to find that contractors pay their subcontractors once a month. And we happen to pay our subcontractors on the 10th of every month. So we sit down prior to the 10th of the month, say the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, somewhere in there, and submit the draw to the customer for what's been spent to date, and the customer writes us a check. We call that progress payment.
So in this case, if there were construction financing, does the check come from the customer or does it come from the bank?
It's been coming from the customer. Now, another way to structure a contract is construction financing. So, and all that gets put in place at time of contract. So the funds are at the bank, and the bank cuts the check. And again, it's done on a monthly basis.
So they'd have to go through a process to get an appraisal, qualifying, those kinds of things. like any new construction?
Exactly. The process for construction lending is not all that different than when you went through the process of trying to buy your home. There's requirements that the bank will ask for, all the, all your financials over a period of time. So all that money is in place prior to the start of construction.
Let's talk a little bit about the permits then, and what's the timing of submittal for permits? What kind of documentation do you need to be able to submit? And then how long does it take to get through the process, and what kind of obstacles might they see?
Again, if you were to do a custom home, you go to the architect. That process can take up to, how long does yours take, Steve? 3 months? 4 months?
4.5.
Yeah. So the reality is it's probably no less than 4 months. The architect submits those plans to the building department with a site plan, and the building department does its regulatory review, and then you can pull your permit. And Black Forest is a little different because you have county zoning to deal with, you have the health department to deal with, you have the fire department to deal with. We even have to get a driveway access permit. You can't enter a public street without a driveway access permit.
You mentioned earlier that you've typically been able to walk with a customer down, and so what do you take with you?
It's fascinating. We know the hoops, and there's forms that they have to fill out for everything. Government loves forms, let's face it. Probably insurance companies too. We take our forms with us, we take our customers, and it's just fascinating the hoops that these guys will jump through to serve the public.
Is it something where they've already submitted the plans then to, say, regional building department, and they've seen them for a while, or are you walking in with them under your arm?
We walk in with them under our arm, and we state that it's a loss, and zoning's City of Colorado Springs process zoning for Waldo. They will just turn them around in a day or two, and normally their process is 10 days.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
I mean, in our experience, we actually submitted our plans on a Friday at 5 o'clock. We had them out on Monday.
That's right.
Yeah. What about things like weather or other kinds of delays that you've seen?
Well, every contract will allow for delays, whether it be weather, natural disasters, force majeure strikes. That's very typical contract language. I can tell you that contracts, we only wish we could do things on a handshake. It's not as litigious as Obamacare, but it's thick. There's probably 50 pages there. But at times it's almost embarrassing to give people a 50-page contract. But the reality is, we all want to know the ground rules. We want it up front. We want to know, you guys want to know what to expect from your contractor, and your contractor wants to know what to expect from you. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Folks, and many of you know, I've been in the commercial real estate business for 33 years. I deal in contracts. And, Phil took the time to go through every single page and paragraph with me, but I'm a very detailed person. I found that the standard form AIA type contracts are very fair, reasonable, but let me tell you, the worst kind of contract you can have is the one that doesn't address your problem. So it's better to have one that's comprehensive than it is to have one that's on 2 pages that doesn't address the issue if you come across something that isn't something addressed.
That's right. It's worth, and the contract is not to be taken lightly. We encourage people to take it to an attorney. If you don't understand something, take it to the attorney. it's paramount that everybody understands what their responsibilities are.
And as Carrie made the comment, do you find that there are times when somebody says, hey, look, this piece either isn't really applicable, or this seems reasonable if we were to make this change? Is that something that contractors would typically entertain?
Sure, if it's if it's a reasonable request, I think you would find that a contractor would do that.
All right, what about complexity of the site? And I'm thinking, in the Black Forest area, maybe you've got, you've obviously got erosion issues, you may have some streams, you've got the issues of, like you said, driveways or whatever. What are some of the complexities of the site, and how can that slow down or affect your construction timing?
Well, every contract will allow for a completion date. So before your contractor submits the contract to you, he needs to understand the complexity of the site and have allowed for the timing to complete your project. I think that's reasonable. Some of these sites are very challenging. Utilities are a challenge. In Waldo, we had to replace all the electric service lines, gas lines. In Black Forest, I think it's going to be the same. There's fire requirements in Black Forest that are they've changed those significantly.
We've got septic issues up there.
We do.
Wells.
Some of these septics that we found, that there's not even a record of any inspections of them. And we have to deal with that. We have to provide the health department with either drawings. If we have to dig it up, we have to provide them with a drawing. Things have changed. 30, 40, 50 years ago, the guys used to go out there and just build something. It took so long for the county to come up with a count of homes that were lost. It's because so much of it there wasn't even a record of. People built things without permits. They didn't know what was up.
All right, let's talk, oops, I did it again. All right, let's talk again. Let's come into a little more discussion about the construction contract. What about a deposit? Is that something that's typical, and how much is it typically?
It is. It's every contract will require what's called earnest money. It's an earnest deposit. It shows good faith. We ask you to share in the risk. Depending on the cost of the home, I would suggest to you that the average deposit for the homes that we're building in the $400 to $600 range is about $20,000.
And how is that deposit applied to the construction?
Those funds are used first in the construction of the home.
All right, what about a budget?
There's two basic different types of contracts. There's a cost plus contract, which is exactly what it says, where whatever that home costs, you'll negotiate a fee with your contractor. In those types of scenarios, we provide a budget. So it's a line item. There's probably 100, 150 line items, and each line item attached to that is a budget number. In a fixed price contract, we don't offer budgets to our customers. We're saying we're going to build the home per the plans and specifications to the contract for X.
And so if it's something you built before, then hey, here's the price of the house. If we've got a model, you can go see it.
Right.
And what if you don't have a model?
That's tough. I don't know that answer.
Trust me.
Yeah. It's fascinating. This whole process is a leap of faith.
It is.
I tell our customers, we're asking you to marry us for 6 months, and we haven't even dated.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about that construction timeline. You just mentioned 6 months. Is that kind of something you see as kind of typical? Or?
It is. It's a pretty typical timeline unless you get into an involved custom home, and then it can go north of 6 months in a hurry.
Is there anything you can think of in that construction timeline that could be could create a delay. For example, let's say the bank doesn't get the appraisal order on time, so the construction financing's not in place. Those kinds of things can.
Right. What we do is we offer 6 months from building permit. So from the time we sign a contract, we get going on appraisals, we submit it to the bank. We work with pros, Steve. We don't see those delays. Not to say that other banks may have some delays. We have a customer now that's working, or that had their home with a very large bank and want to rebuild. It's not the same house. The plans had to be submitted to the bank. 2 months later, the customer became so frustrated because he couldn't reach anybody at this very large bank that I'll leave unnamed. And so he walked into a local office, and the president of the bank called corporate, and they said, well, we received all that 2 months ago, but now we need $450 and 4 weeks to do an appraisal. The incompetence level is just astonishing. But the bank we do it in 2 weeks from the time we email a plan to them. In less than 2 weeks, we have an appraisal, and construction money is in place.
Yeah, so typically if somebody came in and bought, let's say, wanted to replicate one of your models, you'd go out and buy the lot, you'd go get the financing, you'd deliver the house to them, and then they close and then pay you your contract price.
That's correct.
It's a little different situation if
Right.
somebody's going to build on their own lot.
Right, but we have those situations where we're building on other people's lots, and the process. Use local people. There's something to be said about that. People that do their job, people that you can talk with, you can actually get a body.
I wanted to go back just a second to the budget. So when somebody, let's say they were going to have either a semi-custom and want to make changes to a model, is that the kind of thing where you'd say, well, we'll deliver it for X, or here you're going to do a cost plus, or how do you?
In that scenario, we would deliver it for X. A fixed
Like here,
price.
we'll make the changes, and
Yeah.
it's a fixed deal. Okay.
Here's a model home. We have what's called an option order. And on that option order, you can literally put any change you desire on that option order. You want a heated towel bar? You'll find it on the option order. It becomes part of the contract. You want stamped concrete on your back step? It's on the option order. Everything is spelled out. Everything that needs to be done to that house is spelled out in writing. I tell our customers, if they ask us for something, they don't see it in writing, it won't happen. It has to be in writing. It's good for everybody.
I'm thankful Carla didn't know about heated towel bars. Let's talk a little bit about change orders, and let me preface this. You know, we built a different house on a different lot, so we built a custom home. So something that had never been built before, never been designed before, and yet many of you know, some of you who've gotten to be friends, know I'm a detail guy. I spent an immense amount of time with my architect. Before we put a shovel in the ground, I was able to visualize that house from the inside out. I'm very detailed. And yet, you know, Phil and I had this conversation about change orders. And I said, well, I just don't think there's going to be very many change orders. And I remember kind of laughing, like, well, let's wait and see. And sure enough, you know, I'd be like, well, it'd be nice if we had that. Oh, let's do that line over there. I didn't think about that. The architect didn't put anything over here. And so most of it was on me. It wasn't on you. I can't think of a single change order that was on you. I can think of dozens and dozens on me.
That'd be hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds. So talk a little bit about change orders and how that works, and the difference between a fixed price contract and then doing a cost plus.
Well, every contract should allow for a change order. If at some point you want to make a change during the construction process, it's reasonable that you can do that. Get it in writing, and most contractors, I think you would find, do it via a change order. What we do is we spell out what we're going to do and the cost. do it before it's done. It's really easy to agree on a price before the work is done. It's very difficult after the work is done.
On a change order, let's say to a fixed price contract, is it the kind of thing where you say, well, look, I'll add 6 feet to the garage for this much? Or is that
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
and that includes your overhead profit, whatever
That's
it
right.
is? Okay,
Yep, we know up front what it's going to cost, and it adjusts the price of the home. On the bottom of the page, it shows what the new price of the home is, whether it's an addition or a credit.
you know, because ours was a custom home, we did a cost plus contract, which was great for us, because every time I knew that I wanted something done, I just knew that it was going to be this much plus Phil's overhead and profit, which we negotiated. It was very fair, it worked out perfectly for us. And what Phil was great about was helping us value engineer many of the things that either you see or don't see. Well, look, if we did this over here, we could save $5,000. And I'll never forget, he told me, he said, look, it's not the $10,000 items that are going to add up. It's the $10,100 items that are going to add up. And that's really true. And so by value engineering, a lot of the things that I didn't even come to my mind that any other builder could have said, we'll just put those in, we were able to save money and either save the money or reallocate the dollars and put it into something like a nicer faucet or whatever it might have been. So that was a very good experience. Okay, let's talk a little bit about construction draws and progress payments and how that works and what people ought to expect from their contractor when they see a draw. How much detail is in there and those kinds of things?
The draw sheet that you see on the screen is a detailed list of what's been spent, what it was for, and we provide our customers, if they'd like to see them, with the invoice. These are monthly progress payments.
So, in terms of detail, now if you're doing a fixed price contract, do you still do something like this?
No, you won't see it. We're agreeing to build a home for X.
If it's
Well, I take that back. If they're progress payments, Steve, yes, we show them this to prove that we have spent this money for this month, and we're asking you to pay us for those costs incurred.
if there's construction financing involved, let's say the property owner went out and got their own construction
Right.
financing, typically the bank's going to send somebody out to take a look and make sure Phil's
Yes.
the nails where he says.
And that's exactly what the bank gets. So instead of the customer getting it, the bank gets it.
They're making sure that the
Whoever's
studs are at
writing that
16
check.
centers.
Whoever's writing that check gets the draw request.
Okay. All right, good. And that was a very simple, straightforward process for us. It was easy to see if there was ever any question on any of the bills or whatever that was a detail there. I can't even remember if we ever had any of those, but it would be something easy for us to see because we did just a cost plus contract. It was very transparent. Okay, let me tell you just, and I won't spend a lot of time on this, but I wanted to give you all a little bit of, Carla's and my perspective, about selecting the right contractor. And I mentioned this before. We interviewed a number of people, and we took recommendations. We looked at friends. We relied on our architect. And I'm a big believer you do more business with people you like and trust. And as I said, one of the fellows asked me the right question, and that is, what do you want to see in a contractor? And I said, look, total trust. Because, like I said, you can staple a $1,000 bill inside that wall. You never know. And it's not to say that somebody would intentionally do that. But what I think you want is the kind of relationship with a contractor where you know they're spending your money just like it was theirs. And that was, again, a very good experience. On the construction timing, in Murphy's Law, we actually got pretty darn lucky. But as I said, I was on that site a lot, probably more than Phil or his guys wanted to know. And I didn't try to do it as an obstructionist or any obtrusive way, but I wanted to check to make sure that things were being done the way that I wanted them done. I realized, for example, when they staked the lot, that the house was supposed to be looking in one direction. It was about 7 degrees off. And had we just built it, that would have bothered me for the next 30 years, So that it was easy enough, got it restaked, no problem, didn't delay the construction timing at all. So, hey, we're starting to go into the winter months. There's a pretty good chance that you're gonna see some delays. I think we only had maybe 4 weather days last year, which, was probably a good thing. Unfortunately, it probably contributed to the fire we saw this summer, So what I would say is, hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And that is, look, if there's a realistic expectation that this house can be done, your home can be built in 6 months, just plan on the fact that, look, there's things that are outside these builders' control, things that can change. We don't know about the flow of the dollars. We can't see everything. So plan on addressing that worst case scenario. Don, I see your hand up.
Yeah. Folks, when you're talking about timelines, a really good word to use with your builder is, please give me your pessimistic timeline. And by emphasizing that and getting it in writing and you communicating to your insurance company the pessimistic timeline, anything that falls short of that, more prompt, is gravy for you. You don't need to have an overpromise short timeline. You communicate it to your insurance company, and all of a sudden you have either weather or contractor delays that push you past that. So think pessimistic and say, I want the pessimistic, but I really expect you to perform in advance of that, but I need to know the worst case. And that will just ease the burden on you folks as you're dealing with your bank, your land title, insurance company. It's just a thought.
Thanks, Don. The last thing I wanted to just briefly touch on is, beyond construction, what else is there? Wow, I'm not sure I saw all that coming. I was so focused on getting the floor plan right, the view, the height of the ceilings, the windows, all that stuff, the size of the driveway. It didn't totally register with me in terms of things like, what about getting the landscaping done? And what happens when you run into the fact that these nurseries are going to run out of product? And what are the obligations that I have to my HOA or whatever it might be? So I can tell you that some of the things outside the house were things that, man, I kind of had to scramble at the last minute. You want to be thinking about some of those things. Some of the other things are the decorating issues. Window coverings are expensive. And so you want to be able to plan on that, unless you plan on hanging a sheet for the next, 7 or 8 months till you save up some dough. So window coverings were a huge, something that you want to think about and budget for. And I'm sure there's many others. And so during our Q&A, and Carla and Don, if any of you would like to chime in on those things, that would be great. So
There's always surprises in the home building process. For instance, this probably wouldn't happen to most people, but it happened to Steve. There was a fiber optic line running through the middle of the lot. When they put in the fiber optic line, nobody ever considered that there could possibly be an easement. But there's always surprises. But working together, you can get through those things.
that conjures up a fun memory, and I won't take a lot of time to tell you about it, except that finally, after some frustration dealing with a local telephone provider who has the initial CL, just couldn't get them to react. Finally, Phil and I decided, we've begged, we've pleaded, let's figure, we don't even know if this fiber optic line is live. But we finally figured out, well, you know what? We've called, we've documented our calls. Let's see if it's live. And so at 7:30 in the morning, on the day that we were getting ready, we had dug part of the foundation until we saw this exposed fiber optic line. We dug the foundation. At 7:30 in the morning, I called everybody that might be involved, our HOA, the property management company, the guard shack in our community, I took donuts to the guards. I said, hey, you might see a little interruption here soon, and if all hell breaks loose, you'll know what's going on. And at 8:01, one of us used a set of cutters, and we cut that cable. Sorry?
I'm serious, you should not say that.
No, let me tell you, I'll tell you.
We work for them, so don't do it.
Okay, we did it.
Somebody did it.
Yeah, we did it. Somebody did it. I take credit. We did it, and they came out. Yeah, they came out. We got their attention. In fact, I was at another meeting down with the banker, and Phil called me and said, you might want to come home. And so I get there, and of course it's, there's a bunch of people there. And, guy runs up, and I see a guy tapping Phil in the chest, you can't do this. And I walked up and had I had the landscape plan right under my arm, pulled it out. I said, who are you? What's your name? And again, I won't bore you with the whole thing. But the reality was, I showed them that they were not inside the easement. They were well outside the easement. And so everybody backed down very quickly. We reset. Everybody got along from that point. We made arrangements to hold off on digging the rest of the foundation. We dug around them, and then they got out there and moved it. So it was one of those things we didn't know. But so it turned out to be a good experience with that company, but it took a little while because it's a big company to get their attention, but that was how we got it. And it turned out, it worked out. So let me do this. I'd like to turn this over now and open this up to some questions and answers. And Carrie, why don't you come up and join us? I have a couple of questions for you, and what I'd like you to do, if you've got a question, what I'm going to do is we'll share a mic up here. Carla, would you mind running the mic around? And if you would, work your way to the front. That way it'll save a little bit of time. So if you want, work your way towards Carla. Here, go ahead and give that to her. And then you can ask a question. It'll be easier than trying to reach across, and we can also get it done much quicker. So if you have a question, stand up and meet Carla, and we'll come to you. Carla, rather than passing the mic, I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want you to stand right there, and people can line up behind you.
I think he's detail-oriented.
Thank you.
You guys do this all the time.
Gang, it'll go faster, and we can answer more questions by doing it this way. So let me start this off. Carrie, I have a question. So one of the points you brought up was the issue of bringing in experts. The question I have is, when you say who's going to pay for it, let's say the insurance company says they will pay for it. Talk about that and whether or not that affects, whether it's a part of your policy.
Well, I think it depends, and of course, every insurance company's a little different, every policy and contract is a little different, so the caveat I'm going to say is I can only speak from what I've seen and experienced with myself or my friends or some of you. But in general, what we've seen is if the insurance company sends out their hired professionals or experts, their engineering company, their industrial hygienist, and they contract directly with that expert, then they will pay for it. And yes, it comes out of your total claim dollars. If you hire them and you get their agreement ahead of time, then they may pay for them. Or if you hire them and they have positive findings that are reliable that change your claim, then you may be able to get the insurer to pay for them. But for the most part, I know there are a lot, I know several people right now in both Waldo and now in Black Forest that have had to pay out of pocket for, to get an objective opinion. Maybe the insurance company sends out their roofing people and they say, no, we think your roof is fine, but you don't believe that because your roofer told you, no, the underlayment is melted and it's not going to hold up like it should. Then you want to hire your own structural engineer, perhaps, to give their opinion, and hopefully the weight of the evidence will win out with the insurer. The challenge with that is if you don't have the money sort of sitting around to do that with, where do you get it from? I found that I can think of one structural engineer who's been in town forever and ever, who works for $75 an hour. And so you just, he comes out and he'll take a quick look and tell you whether he thinks it's worth doing a full evaluation and writing up a report or not. So there are ways you can kind of maybe get a couple of other experienced roofers out to give you an opinion. There are ways that you can get it done. Long-term recovery has dollars to cover things like that if they're really needed. So I don't know if that really answers the question.
Thanks. Let's go to our first question. And tell us who you'd like to address it to.
It's you two, builders. How do I tell if there's an easement on my land? Is there an easy way to look that up?
There is. In every home we build, there's what's called, the question was, how do you know if there's an easement on your land? In every home we build, we do what's called a plot plan. So the architect takes the home and places it on the lot. And in that, there's research done on the recorded plat on that property. All the easements are shown, all the setbacks are shown.
Yeah, typically you have to get a survey. They will rely on a title report. All that's typically something that your builder's going to help coordinate for you. So that once they pull that title report, they present that to the surveyor, you'll be able to see exactly in a drawing where those easements lie. Okay, Bruce.
I have two questions. One for whomever and the other one for the contractor. First one is, everybody gets an estimate of damages from their insurance company, either through an Exactimate program or something similar. It's also recommended that you get a scope of loss. My insurance company keeps telling me the limit is the limit is the limit. So, in essence, what would be the value of getting a scope of loss done if your insurance company says your limit, and we really don't care if you're underinsured?
Well, so you're speaking of a total loss,
Yeah.
right? And I'm assuming that your estimate of loss from the insurer it has reached your limit,
Oh, yeah.
face
Well,
value.
actually, the estimate of damages came in about $1,500 under my insurance limit, which didn't surprise me.
So, in many cases, the reason we talk about that is the first pass from your insurance company may not reach your limit, and you want to work your scope up to the limit if, in fact, your insurance amount is there to be recaptured. Their first pass may not take into account any of the details, the upgrades in your home, and that's why you would want to give input. Even in something like building a simple deck, their initial estimate may be off. It may be lowballed, it may not be intentional, it may just be they don't have enough information on the first pass. The reason in your circumstance you may still want to work on that is because there are additional dollars within your policy, like your code upgrade, endorsement, no?
No.
Or
I don't have the extra 10 to 20% rider.
you don't.
No.
Then I mean, I guess, and I'm just going to give you my opinion here, and it's not a legal opinion. If you feel that you have hit your limit and you don't have endorsements that can increase that, it may not be worth your time to do much more, but it may be if you do feel you were seriously underinsured due to no fault of your own. If you establish a realistic scope, that's a place to start from, and investigating, maybe talking to the insurance company about them maybe looking back at your policy and considering what their part would be in your underinsurance. But that is a long, difficult road from what I've been told. However, it happens quite a bit, and there is an entire page on the website at UP devoted to that topic, and I would encourage you to read through that and some of the people's experiences who have gone through that process of looking at underinsurance. It's a whole nother topic, but just having a realistic scope of loss is a good place to start, and it will help you also in understanding maybe what it's going to cost to replace your home, which is another value there. With that, I hope that.
Thank you.
That's great. A couple thoughts about that. One is the term scope of loss was covered in two workshops back. When we had Tom Henderson here, we talked about Xactimate. Scope of loss is typically, in most policies, something that's not required to be provided to the insurance company until they request it. Most policies have that language in there. And at that point, they have the right to call witnesses, to essentially depose them, those kinds of things. So there's one thing in terms of providing your estimate of loss compared to the insurance company's estimate of loss. So there's a couple of, I guess, just terminology issues. One is what's an estimate of loss, which is what we typically start with, and what's truly considered a quote scope of loss, and that's defined in your policy. And that was covered a couple of sessions ago. So that's one point. Secondly, Tom Henderson brought up some really good points about underinsurance and those issues. And there's really a couple of primary reasons why you see underinsurance. One is either the methodology that was used to evaluate or to determine insurable value on your home was either incorrect, it had not kept up with inflation, or the homeowner in many cases chose a lower policy amount because it's tied to the amount of premium they were willing to pay. So Tom brought up the point, he said it's very difficult to successfully fight a claim for underinsurance for several reasons. One is, in the state of Colorado, there is a requirement that the insurance agent have what's called special relationship with the insured. Unless you've done something to create that special relationship, like pay them to come out or to render specific advice, and you can document that on your behalf, there is no special relationship. And so Colorado law is very clear on that. So it's very difficult, to be honest, in terms of dealing with how do you overcome that issue of underinsurance? Because one, and many times it's elective. Insureds simply choose the insurance option that costs less, which sometimes means you don't get the benefit of full replacement cost coverage. Or there have been either circumstances or some kind of negligence on behalf of the insurance company. We were actually able to document that kind of negligence. I took what I thought was a pretty good case to Tom, and he said it's 50-50. And it was very well documented. So it just goes to show you, I mean, until we can change some of the legislation that's out there and affecting us, we started that with the Homeowners Insurance Act of 2013. We need to keep chipping away at that.
I was surprised to find when we started asking questions about this to other survivor communities who experienced large percentages of underinsurance. I mean, 6 figures, and over 50% of the people that responded to the UP surveys in Boulder and places like that, and some places in California. There are a lot of people who have pursued this. And as it turns out, there are actually people who have been successful in making a case with certain insurance companies that they were underinsured due to no fault of their own, and they were able to document that they had done their due diligence and that they expected to be fully covered through their communications with their agent, should their home be destroyed. And have been successful in getting the insurance company to go backwards in time and increase their face value on the dwelling, for example, and you would pay the premium difference. I don't think it happens frequently, but it does happen. So if you feel strongly about it, you might consider either speaking to a competent, experienced attorney about what your options are, the Division of Insurance about their feelings on it, and/or then possibly making a case to your insurer about it.
Thank you. And
Okay,
the
go ahead, next question to Phil.
Yeah. And working out the contract with the general contractor that you're going to employ, as a contractor yourself, how might one approach you on the issue of penalties for the home not being done when it's supposed to be done, and what might those penalties consist of that would be acceptable to you?
Well, it's not unusual to see a per-day fee for non-performance by the contractor. In other words, he's late. There are, I've seen contracts where there's $100 a day penalty, $200 a day, $300 a day. There are things that are outside the control of the contractor that can cause delays, which, I'm sure we can all understand. And we're going into the winter. There's, in February, it's a really lousy time to pave a driveway. You can escrow for the cost of that driveway and close on your property, and in the spring, when weather allows, pave that driveway, and then release the funds for payment of that.
Our next question.
Hi, this question is for Phil, two-part question. I met with 3 custom home builders, 2 of whom referred me to their designers, not architects. And each one made the pitch about you don't need an architect, the designer's good enough. Can you comment on that? Would you recommend an architect over a designer?
Well, the 2 architects that we employ are just that. They're architects. They know the code. They don't come cheap, but they're worth every penny. They're professionals. They've been trained to do what they do. They know the codes. They're responsible for submitting those plans to the governmental entities and getting them approved. You want it done right. It's, you only get to do this once. This is my opinion. You only get to do it once. Pay a professional to do it right the first time.
Thank you. And then second part, is it important to, like you mentioned working with 2 architects, is it important to hire the architect, contractor as a team?
It is. It is. When we first sit down with a customer to do a custom contract, we try and develop a relationship. We need to know what your budget is. And, if your budget's whatever it may be, we know, we've done this long enough. We have a feel for what a home costs per square foot based on communication that we've had. Do you want Wolf Range's sub-zero refrigerators? We know what that costs, and we can help you with the architect design a home that fits your budget. It's, I get asked the question all the time, what's a house cost a square foot? Well, the reality is a Volkswagen and a Ferrari weigh about the same. Same thing applies to a house. It's all over the map. I'd suggest to you we build for anywhere from $130 a square foot up to $300 a square foot for some really fabulous homes. It's no fun going through the design process, paying an architect a lot of money to design a home, us putting it out to bid, and being $200,000 over your budget. What purpose did that serve? It was a waste of everybody's energy and a lot of money.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
I have no experience I haven't built a home from scratch in this, but I know a number of people people who have had varying experiences with builders. I think mostly sort of, is it appropriate to say semi-custom builders that have maybe the certain plans, but they can be modified for cost. And some, I've heard of all these different types of contracts that limit the cost or guarantee the cost, and those that don't. And, you know, we've had friends who've ended up way over budget without expecting to be, and others who've said, oh my gosh, we've been right on target the whole time, and in, you know, complete control of that. What do you recommend people do to, you know, fairly but appropriately ensure that their home is going to end up costing what they think it is when they enter into the contract?
Well, in the contract, it specifies what will go into that home. Understand what's being put in the home. You know, you can ask to see the carpet that's in the contract. Ask those questions. You can ask to see the tile that's in the contract. Ask those questions. Understand what you're paying for. I just don't understand how somebody could go into a contract and be over budget, because we spell out what it's going to cost. I would suggest if it's open-ended, be careful.
Perhaps that's the answer. It shouldn't be open-ended.
Exactly. It's yeah, don't enter a contract that's open-ended. This process. We want the process to be fun for all our customers. It should be a great time. I mean, the visual gratification out of building homes and having a home built is just, it's hard to describe. It's really great.
I have another question for you, Phil. This comes right off the little checklist that United Policyholders provided. It says, how many jobs do you do at one time? This isn't specifically maybe to you, but what should they expect? Because there's production builders out there, and then there's custom folks, and I'm not sure we all know what to expect. And not just the question of how many homes are you building, but who's going to supervise my job? Who's my contact person?
Have a clear understanding with your builder on what to expect in terms of a timeline. Does he have all the economy here, for various reasons, is very good in Colorado Springs for home builders right now. Everybody's very busy. Have that clear understanding of a timeline. Know that, ask the question, does he have the trades to support his workload? Is this his only house? If it's his only house, then he's probably doing the supervision. If he's doing 10 homes right now, know that he has a superintendent. He can't possibly supervise 10 homes. Ask those questions. Be informed. A good consumer is informed.
Last question I have. What if you're getting along fine, but then you have a dispute over something? What's an appropriate way to address, a minor conflict in terms of resolving that thing? What about holdbacks, or what's appropriate? How would you recommend someone address that with your builder?
Well, every contract will address disputes and make sure it's in there. I think you'll find that most contracts allow for arbitration. I don't know the answer to your question. Fortunately, I haven't had that issue, Steve.
Fair enough. Quick, Carla. We have a question here. Oh, okay. If you could just maybe speak up so we can hear. I'll repeat your question.
What types of questions do you ask when you're interviewing a contractor?
Okay, what types of questions?
What do you know what I want to know?
Yeah. Yeah, here's a really good checklist on the back of the agenda tonight. So and this is right on the UP website, so there's a good place to start. And I think we've probably covered a number of them in terms of, what's your experience? Are you local? Are you licensed? Are you insured? Who are your references? Can you show me some examples of what you built? Do you have models? Are you a member of HBA? What kinds of awards have you gotten? What are your credentials? Those kinds of things. So there's a pretty good checklist. Do you have others you might add to that, Phil?
I think the checklist that's on here is pretty thorough. Again, the most important thing as you go through interviewing a contractor is truly, do you connect? Steve mentioned conflicts. If you've connected, you can work through those. I always tell our customers, they crucified the last perfect man. What separates the men from the boys is how you respond to that. So,
for me, it was about finding the right person who would under-promise and over-deliver, and it worked out well for us. Let me wrap up by letting you know that our next roadmap to recovery meeting is going to be held right here in this building. We're going to do that on Tuesday, December 5th, and we'll talk about coping with social, emotional loss. We'll also have a section on there about flood control. Carrie's going to handle that. So we're hoping that we'll see you, and feel free to bring your neighbors and friends, anybody that might need help with those issues. We'll be glad to address those. Again, remember, ask an expert, use the UP website. Thank you all for coming. Let's have a round for these folks. Appreciate it. Thank you, Woodmen Valley. Thank you for all your help. Really appreciate that. We'll stick around here, gang, and be glad to answer questions for a little bit.
And I just want to thank one more person, Nancy, with El Paso County. This lovely lady has been at every one of these meetings, and there are many recovery meetings, taping this so that it is available for you both on the county website and on the UP website, and it's available for people in other communities like Canyon City and places like that where they don't have access. So thank you for working so many hours. Thanks, Nancy.